Good morning. It is August 15th, 2017, a little after 6 in the morning. It's when I get here every day. You can see the lights aren't even on yet in the hallway. Welcome to Mr. Zagray's room. And what we're doing today is just going a quick run through of the animals that we have here in the classroom so that you can see what we have. And these are all available for us to study throughout the school year and for you to participate in zoology club. So for example, here's our long-nosed gar. He's been with us for a long time. He was inherited from a teacher who retired, and he had him for a long time, so he's at least 20 years old. More than that, over 20 years old. And if you want to, you can throw a goldfish in there and feed him if you come to zoology club. Here we have a painted turtle. His name is Squirt because when he came to us, he was only about that big, just a little squirt. And he loves to eat earthworms. We also feed him aquatic turtle food, and at the moment his aquarium needs to be cleaned out, and that's something else that we do in zoology club that you're welcome to participate in. Ooh, that was a good shot. Next we have our saltwater tank, and at the moment there's nothing in here because I maintain this tank to receive the saltwater animals that we get in to study, primarily anemones. So when we get to the animal kingdom and studying the phylum Cnidaria, which anemones belong to, I'll be ordering living anemones, and we'll be doing a living lab with those anemones, and they'll live in here. But that's like the fourth quarter, so it's quite a while from now, and until then there's really not going to be anything living in here unless I change my mind and decide to order something. Here we have another aquatic turtle, a red-eared slider, much larger than the painted turtle, but the painted turtle should grow to be at least this size. And he's called a red-eared slider because he's got those red stripes on the side of his head. Lives a very similar life to the painted turtle. Eats about the same thing, loves earthworms, will eat goldfish. Also, we give her bilgejack dog food. She'll eat just about anything. And that's one of the big differences between turtles and tortoises, and we do have some tortoises too that you'll see later. Turtles spend most of their time in and around water, where tortoises spend most of their time out of the water, so you can find tortoises in the desert. Here we've got a box turtle, an eastern box turtle. And box turtles are kind of the exception to the rule. They live a life more like a tortoise, but they still need to stay near water. You'll notice when I said turtles live in or around water, that's because they need water more than tortoises do. So a box turtle is a turtle, but it's got adaptations that are similar to the adaptations of tortoises. But again, turtles are really omnivorous, whereas tortoises are more herbivorous, or they're all herbivorous, I mean. So you don't find a carnivorous tortoise. We might as well go over here, since we're looking at aquatic things, and check out our African lungfish. Right now he's in the corner. I don't know if I can scare him up or not. You only want to put your hand in here, your fingers in here, if you plan to do that at all, when he's nowhere near this area. But he knows to come here to be fed. Doesn't seem to do that much anymore, but a lot of times I can rouse him up by splashing in the water over here. There are a couple goldfish in here that he could eat if he wanted to. Yep, there he goes. He's waking up a little bit. He's really big now, about the length of half the aquarium, and that's why he's in such a big aquarium. But when I first got him, he was only about that long, and people said, "Oh, why you put him in such a big aquarium?" I knew he was going to grow this big. I've had one before. He also loves earthworms, but he'll eat goldfish, and primarily eats bilgejack dog food. We use a lot of bilgejack dog food here because a lot of the animals will eat it. I'm putting on a glove now because we're going to take a look at one or two of the 9 snakes that we have. We've ended up with more snakes and turtles and tortoises than anything else. And so what we have in here are 2 corn snakes. And I knew that was going to happen. They've been named Snape and Lily, and I put on a glove because when you first reach into a cage like this, they can think they're going to be fed and be bitey because of that. But once you get a hold of them, then you don't really need to worry about it anymore. But this is Snape, and he doesn't have the normal color of a corn snake. He's got a different color, and that's what you find in the pet trade. They've been bred to be all kinds of different, what we call color morphs. Lily here, get it? Lily and Snape from Harry Potter. Lily here is more the color that you would expect for a corn snake. Pretty, isn't she? They're also known as a red rat snake. They're related to rat snakes. But those are our corn snakes. And then here we've got a king snake. King snake. And notice he opened his mouth because most of these snakes we don't feed in the cage, so that when you reach in, they're not used to eating in the cage. So we take them out and we put them in other containers to feed them. This king snake is an albino. So you can see it doesn't really have that much coloration at all. Just a little yellow stripe running down its back pretty much, and a couple other yellow markings. But otherwise, completely white. An albino king snake. Since we're looking at king snakes, we might as well look at our other king snake. That's not an albino. Give you an idea of what their normal coloration is. And I'm glad he's not in his skull. Sometimes he hangs out in his skull that's in his cage and you can't really see him. He's pretty aggressive usually. Very hungry all the time. And actually, yeah, he's biting the glove right now and wrapping around my arm thinking it's time to eat. And hopefully he'll let go eventually. I may have to leave the glove in the cage until he lets go. Look at his tail going. He's all excited because he thinks he's eating my hand, or eating the glove anyway. But the last thing I fed him was a rat. Most of the small snakes, and we have 4 small snakes, the two corn snakes, the 2 king snakes, and then we have a milk snake that you'll see in a minute. They're all what we consider small snakes, and so they all eat mice. But this guy's big enough that he handled a rat the last time I fed him, and which makes me surprised that he's so hungry, because he had a big meal. And I'll go ahead and leave this in here for now so we don't have to wait for him to let go. Hopefully he'll figure out that he can't eat the glove and won't try to swallow it. And luckily, since gloves come in pairs, I've got another one to be able to reach in and get the other snakes out. So I'll come back to him, but let me get my other glove. And we'll pull out the milk snake, which I don't even see her anywhere. All the small snakes were fed recently, so they should be relatively happy, content, and not starving and not hungry. She is an escape artist. She has been found missing twice. There she is, sticking up her head. Figures the one place I didn't look is the place she was. Isn't she beautiful? A milk snake. Not to be confused with the coral snake, which is venomous and has the same coloration, but it's in a different pattern. So you may have heard the limerick, red on black, friend of Jack, or red on black, venom lack. So notice that the red stripe is on the black. And then the other part of it is red on yellow, kill a fellow. So if the red was on the lighter instead of in the middle of the black, you would identify this as a coral snake. which is venomous, and both live in the same environment. So it's a great example of mimicry, where a harmless species mimics a more dangerous species or venomous species. Got to make sure this one's really secure, because like I said, she was actually hanging from a vent down in the auditorium atrium one day. A student spotted her. She had been missing for about a month. We also keep goldfish as feeders. So for example, the alligator gar or the turtles eat goldfish. We also keep dubia cockroaches and breed them as food. Look at them all. So we have plenty of food. And one of the animals that eats these dubia cockroaches more than any other is our bearded dragon. We also have a hermit crab here. He's all the way back in the corner, all alone now. You can see him in his shell. He hardly ever comes out and does anything. I'll put him right back where he was. I just wanted you to know that we do have one hermit crab. That's an aquarium that I keep in the window. That's my pond habitat or pond ecosystem, full of algae, as you can see, and that's the way I want it. People come in here and they say, oh yeah, you got to clean that out. No, that's the way I want it. I want it to be like a pond ecosystem, and we can actually take water samples out of there and look at it under the microscope. And I've got a couple goldfish swimming around in there to make it a complete ecosystem. I don't feed them or anything. They eat the algae, then they put nutrients into the water that the algae use, and so it's a complete cycle, complete ecosystem. There's also some Elodea plant in there that I keep alive so we can look at it under the microscope when we do our microscope lab. You'll check that out, or cell lab. We might as well continue on over here with a big snake, and actually I don't think I'm going to get her out because she's highly visible here and it looks like she's ready for another rat, but she was just fed within a week, so she really doesn't need a rat right now. And just like the other snakes, she may be bitey when you first get her out, but once you hold her for a while, she'll calm down and not try to bite you anymore. That's a piece of her cage that she ripped down recently. It looks like I need to give her some water. Since we're looking at larger snakes now, let's check back with the king snake. He's still thinking that that glove is food. It is leather, so it is similar to what he's used to eating. Here we've got our largest snake, which is a common Colombian boa constrictor. We have 3 of these. So like I said, we have 9 snakes. 3 of them are these common Colombian boa constrictors, sometimes called rose tails, but they're not true rose tails. Rose tails are actually a different species, but their tail is darker, these common Colombian boas. But they're not true rose tails. But he's a real friendly guy. He's been to a lot of animal presentations. And that's one thing that you can participate in Zoology Club, is we take the animals out to other schools, and like Tree City Preschool, any organization really, school or organization that invites us to come in the community, we'll take the animals out for a presentation. For example, we did Hogwarts School recently. So the other 2 boa constrictors are in this large jewelry case down here. So you see them in there, hopefully. There's not too much of a shine here, but there are 2 of them in here, and they came together on actually all 3 of these boa constrictors. These 2 in the lower case came at the same time from the APL, you know, that organization that takes in dogs and cats and finds them good homes. Well, somebody moved out of their apartment and left them behind, and the APL ended up with them, and they called me to come take them. Same with this guy. Since we're here, we might as well take a look at the blue-tongued skink. And I don't need a glove for this. We're done with the snake, so I can just take the glove off. But this is a marvelous pet, a marvelous lizard. and you can see why they call her a blue-tongued skink. Nice bright blue tongue, and the explanation for that is that it's used for intimidation, basically. It looks scary, might detract or scare away a predator, but she's a very friendly lizard, never tried to bite anybody. Comes from Australia, the outback. Blue-tongued skink. Let's see, who do we have next? We might as well take a look. I've mentioned the bearded dragon when we were looking at the cockroaches. Here's our bearded dragon. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and get the glove again, because this guy is real aggressive when it comes to eating cockroaches and gets fed in his cage. So every time he's fed, I mean, look at him. He's ready for action, and look at that beard. And you can see why they call him a bearded dragon. And not only can he puff the beard up, but he can turn it jet black. So it really looks like he has a beard. But he's very dinosaur looking, isn't he? And we've had bearded dragons before, and they've been real friendly, and this guy just doesn't seem to be real happy most of the time. I don't know exactly why, but like I said, he loves to eat cockroaches, and it's fun to feed him, because as soon as you throw him in, bam, he jumps on them and eats them. Speaking of cockroaches, we've got these Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Whoop! And it wouldn't matter if I dropped it, because they're built very sturdy. This one's a male. You can tell it's a male because of these horns. Females don't have horns like that. And you know, we keep these animals to do some laboratory exercises. You'll be doing a lab with these guys when we get to the animal kingdom again in the fourth quarter. But we're going to start out the year with an animal related activity right off the bat. It'll be next week in the second week. So this is a female. Notice that the less prominent horns, there are little bumps there where the horns are in males, but they're not as prominent. And this is another breeding colony, just like the dubia roaches. And they've been here for a long time, inherited it from another teacher. Long time ago when I first started teaching, and they've been thriving ever since. Here we've got some African clawed frogs, and these guys came from somebody who used them in their research project last year. And they bred them and had many, many, many frogs. So they went ahead and donated these 3. And they call them African clawed frogs because they actually have claws, and frogs usually don't have claws. Amphibians in general usually don't have claws, but these guys have claws. This cage is empty, and there was a bearded dragon in there a while ago. But what we have down here, and for some reason the light isn't on, timer must be running slow. It's either that or the power went out. This is our Russian tortoise. So again, we've got turtles and tortoises. So this being a tortoise, he's better adapted for life out of the water. And we've got that light in there that keeps it nice and warm, hot all the time, so that he's happy. And you can see the food bowl there. It's nothing but vegetables, salad, because that's what tortoises eat. So that's a Russian tortoise. Here we've got tropical millipedes. Actually, one of them is out. They're almost never out. I'll lift this up so you can see them. There are 2 of them in here. And just like the cockroaches, you can handle them. When you do, smell them, and you'll smell an odor that reminds you of almonds, an almond-like odor. And what you're smelling is actually cyanide. These guys secrete cyanide to make them taste terrible, but also if you get enough of that cyanide in your system, it would kill you. So that's what they do as a defense. interesting critters. And I order them every year. These are alive from last year. I try to keep everything alive as long as possible. Here we've got a rose-hair tarantula. And my daughter's very afraid of spiders. But she didn't get it from me. I don't know where she got it. Obviously she didn't get it from me because I think spiders are fascinating. Now, really the worst thing that will happen with this spider would be that the hairs from its abdomen, they can shed their hairs into the air, and if they get in your eyes especially, it would be bad. Some people are allergic enough to them that they make their skin itch. So keep that in mind if you ever handle our rose-hair tarantula. The king snake still thinks he's going to eat that glove. I think that's everything that we have here. And we get other animals in periodically. When people decide they don't want them anymore, they donate them to the high school, to me, to us, Zoology Club. But there are 2 animals that I have at home. So I will video them, add them to the video, and welcome to the class.